Was it a game changer, Nigel?
Yes, it was. No question about that. And I mean, I've been in the House of Commons for over 30 years, and I don't think there was anything that happened here that shocked me more than the expenses scandal. I think that what I found most upsetting was that a number of people who had become friends, who I trusted, respected, thought were basically decent individuals. I think that of most MPs, by the way. And it turned out that they were at the very least, cavalier with the taxpayers' money, and at the very most, crooks.
But you heard the word system repeated over and over again in that
Yeah,
montage that we put
partly
together,
true.
and they will say,
Yeah.
"Look, Your Honour, it wasn't us; it was the system."
No, I mean, partly that was true. What had happened under Margaret Thatcher is that she decided that MPs couldn't have a salary rise, which in fact they probably deserved, and so instead that they would get their money through expenses. And as a result, a new MP would come into the place and basically be told by the old hands, "Here, we'll point you towards the fees office and go down there and fill your boots." So yes, the system was at fault, but there were things going on where MPs could not have possibly justified it with their conscience. I remember one MP who, for some reason, needed a dozen televisions. Now, that is not something that makes any sense. That some of the mortgage fiddling that went on was basically crooked. And certainly, from my point of view, somebody who's always respected MPs, believe they're basically good people trying to do a basically good job, it's certainly not my confidence in them, let alone that of the nation's.
What about the overall effect and the domino effect of what we're talking about, Nigel? There are those who would try and form a connection between that scandal and the long road that then led us to Brexit. What do you think?
Yes, I think there is a connection. Quite clearly that the expenses scandal had absolutely nothing to do with David Cameron calling an EU referendum. So it's not as if the expenses scandal caused Brexit. It was the referendum that did that. What is interesting about the referendum is the kind of reasons that people voted. An awful lot of people, as a result of the expenses scandal, had lost faith completely in politics and politicians. And what they were doing with the referendum is they were suddenly given a voice. A lot of people live in constituencies where your vote is frankly wasted. If you've got an MP with a huge majority and you support a different political party, your vote just doesn't count. Which means that probably when it comes to changing governments, you're talking about 200,000 votes, and that's all that do count. Suddenly, with a referendum, everybody's got a voice. Simple majority decision, therefore your vote always counts. And I think people then took the opportunity to say, no, we've had enough of this, we've had enough of the establishment, and we are going to vote the way that the establishment, or against the way the establishment has told us to. And I do see a connection between that and the loss of trust in MPs because of the expenses scandal.
But yet, it continues, it rumbles on. The establishment is trying to take back control. A lot of people, Nigel, will see that what the House of Commons is involved in at the moment shows disdain, whether you agree or whether you don't agree with the referendum vote, but they trying to take control back over these various alternative votes that we're going to hear about. Is the establishment saying, we know best?
I don't think it's much that. I think that the whole political class has got themselves into a hopeless pickle with Brexit. And what is being shown at the moment is neither the government and possibly Parliament is actually up to the challenge of Brexit. We'll see tomorrow what MPs do. I mean, it's the first time they've actually been able to vote for something rather than against something. It may be that they will come out tomorrow during indicative votes with some kind of plan for an alternative Brexit. I have to say I'm not terribly hopeful about that, but they may be able to. So I think that what is going on at the moment is just simply because our political system is not able to cope with the biggest challenge that we face since World War II.
Yeah. So here we go, 10 years on since the expense scandal story. What has changed, Nigel? Do you happen to know, do they still claim expenses? And if so, what are the limitations placed on what they can claim, or was the money that they used to have in expenses put on their salaries?
No, it wasn't put on salaries, although they have had pay rises since then, so that their pay is a bit more in line with the private sector. And to be honest, as it should be, I still happen to think that MPs are basically underpaid. I know most people won't think that, but I think they probably are for the role that they do. What has happened since is that expenses now, and obviously MPs do need expenses. They've got to drive through their constituencies, and that can be put up huge kind of mileage. What has changed is it is policed an awful lot better. So now we have the Independent Parliamentary Standards Authority, who actually do the policing. They're pretty tough on MPs. MPs don't like IPSA at all. You should hear the sort of swear words that they actually say about it.
Yeah.
But what it does do is to make sure that each expense claim is legitimate. And although there's some bizarre things that pop up on expense claims, recent one was 2 loo seats, for instance. Even so, it is down to IPSA to actually make sure that taxpayers' money is spent properly. And I think although there is still big money being claimed, it is not illegitimate money any longer.
Okay, Nigel, thank you for your perspective. Thank you for explaining things. Very nice to talk to you again, my friend. Thank you. Nigel Nelson there, who is a political editor. He is the political editor at the Sunday Mirror. On this subject, here's Rudy on the line from Exeter. Good evening, Rudy. You're live on Talk Radio.
Nice to speak to you, Amy. It's the first time, actually, to speak with you. It's a pleasure. And what I'm going to say is, Amy, right, and just hear me out on this, I think it's outrageous with the expenses. Like, for instance, Maria Miller claimed £50,000 so that she fiddled, and then was only asked to pay £5,000 back. Now, can you imagine you doing that to the Inland Revenue, and then the Inland Revenue say, oh, that's okay, you only have to pay £5,000 back even though you stole 50 or didn't declare it?
I suppose you could argue, Rudy, that there was the public humiliation that a lot of those named and shamed had to go through. And they will say in their defence that, I can't remember Maria Miller's case exactly, it was something to do with a second home, wasn't it, or mortgage interest repayment or something. But they will say the system allowed it.
Yeah, but she lied, though. The point is this, you see, that was fraud. And the fact is, if she's taken 50,000 from us, the taxpayer, then she should pay 50,000 back. Some people go to prison for a few hundred quid.
Yeah.
You know? And the other thing is, Amy, what your colleague just said about that they need to claim expenses for mileages and stuff like that. What about all these carers that are on a pittance of the money that don't get any money for mileage going to see their patients? Yeah.
Look, I agree with Nigel Nelson from the point of view that they probably should be paid more, in their salaries. When it's the usual thing. It's smoke and mirrors, Rudy. The whole idea is the expenses were expected to be invisible. No one would know about it, and therefore the MPs and what they earned would not seem to be as contentious or outrageous as some people may have thought it was. But Rudy, what I'm asking you is, why are you still so fired up about this 10 years on?
Because it shows the dishonesty. Like, for instance, I'll give you an example, right? With Brexit, how they're trying to thwart it. And I believe that the reason why they are doing it is because they're all career politicians that want to get on the gravy train to Brussels, where they get all these extra expenses, they'll be able to retire on full pay at 50 years old. You know, that's what it's all about. If they're looking ahead for their career, they don't care about me or you. And you know yourself, the point is, Eamon, right? David Cameron stood on that podium and said, this would be our decision. Once in a lifetime. It won't be for government,
yes.
It won't be for politicians, it is your decision.
He did say that, and it's ended up not being our decision now.
And do you know what's
frightening,
Eamon, is, right? Eamon, what is frightening, whether you voted to remain or leave, what they are saying is that our vote doesn't count. Regardless of what we vote, they will do what they want anyway. And that is frightening.
Yeah, I would say it's hard to disagree with you, Rudy. Thank you very much indeed. Got to move on. We've got a lot of callers. Nice talking to you. This is Martin from Lincolnshire. Hiya, Martin. You're live on Talk Radio.
Hi, how are you?
I'm okay. What do you want to say?
It's just the thing with Jacobs Rees-Mogg, really.
Yes. Jacob's Ladder.
Jacob's Ladder. So he's done a turnaround on what he was saying about coming away from Europe and this and that. You know, he's pro-Brexit, and now they're saying because he wants a future within his party, he's done a complete turnaround, or it gives him a future.
That's
what
politics.
Has that got to do with Brexit?
That's politics, isn't it?
But it's not very good for the country. We're at loggerheads with Europe. I don't want to hear on my radio of someone I'm supposed to look up to is trying to protect his career at the expense of my country. I've had a rifle for my country. I'm a Falklands veteran.
Well,
I don't want to hear that.
Do you know, the thing that gets me, Martin, is I didn't vote in this referendum for reasons I just don't want people pointing fingers at me, and I sort of think...
Absolutely, I can understand that.
You know, but I would say this. When you hear Theresa May saying, no deal is better than a bad deal, but everybody says, but Mrs May, your deal sucks. Your deal is horrendous.
Yeah, absolutely.
So,
I'm fed up with hearing it. What's
so why would anybody vote for a rubbish deal? Why would I? And again, and I put this. I mean, if I was negotiating a pay deal with Talk Radio, or you know, and I say, and I go to them and I say straight away, and they'll say, you know, if someone said you're in a pay deal, and they say to you, right, what do you want? And I would say, what are you prepared to pay? I wouldn't put a limit on what I'm going to want straight away. And, you know, to actually take no deal off the table, I sort of think, how stupid. I mean, you just couldn't do anything more moronic than take no deal off the table.
Well, I mean, you can think of it that way. Or I think of, to get out of something, who negotiates to get out of something? I've never heard that in my life.
Yeah, you walk... Yeah.
I don't walk out of a nightclub when I was younger.
Yeah.
Negotiate.
Yeah.
You're going in and paying. We're not going into anything.
The thing that makes me
at a later date.
The thing that makes me laugh all the time is how we just conveniently forget we're going to hand them 39 billion quid back as payola to walk away, and sort of like, right, let's forget about that, and we'll write that off. How long would it take us to earn as a country £39 billion, and what could you do with it?
Well, I'm sure that a lot of people will be shouting at the radio now to say what they can do with it, but I don't think that's the point. I think we've been waiting so long to get out. We've all been bludgeoned everyone turns the radio off. They see Theresa May up there in a designer suit. They hear about, like today, this guy, Jacob Rees-Mogg doing a U-turn because of his political career or whatever way you want to put it in that direction, and it's just absolutely, you know, it's disrespectful to us.
I know, but then you see how divisive. You saw the march on Saturday in London, and the amount of people who may disagree with you on what you're saying there. So it's incredibly divisive. My whole view about the whole thing is whether we stay, whether we go, let's just get on with it. Pull together as a country, and I think where the government are very wrong, that they didn't make this cross-party, they didn't make this consensual, they didn't bring in business people, and they're now being held to account by the best negotiators you will ever get in politics, and that is the Democratic Unionist Party. Love them or loathe them, they negotiate very, very well.